She'll never admit it. Not to you, not to her friends, sometimes not even to herself. But the past always leaves fingerprints. Her words might sound clean, her smile might be sweet, her story might be polished, yet her patterns betray her. Most men stay blind, falling for what she says. But if you know what to look for, if you know the signs, you can read her without asking a single question. Today, I'll expose the 7 hidden tells that reveal far more than she'll ever confess. The subtle behaviors, the slips, the details that whisper the truth every man needs to hear. This is the knowledge she hopes you'll never discover. But once you see it, you'll never see her the same way again. 1. Her eyes don't hold yours for long. You can tell a lot from a woman's eyes, not just what she says, but what she hides. Attraction, insecurity, guilt, desire, all of it flickers in her gaze before her words ever reveal it. And when you're dealing with a woman who's been with many men, one of the first signs shows up right here. She struggles to hold eye contact. At first, you might think it's shyness or modesty. Maybe she just feels nervous around you. But look deeper. A woman who has lived a life of emotional depth, loyalty, and intimacy will lock into your eyes differently. She has no reason to flinch, no need to deflect. She'll meet your gaze with comfort, with a sense of presence. But a woman who's run through many encounters, who's learned to charm men without giving them her full self, often can't maintain that same purity of gaze. Why? Because intimacy has become routine. Connection has become performance. She has learned to smile, to laugh, to nod at the right times, but her eyes betray the absence of something real. When you lock eyes with her, she feels exposed. She feels like you might see past the mask, past the playful act, into the reality she tries so hard to cover. There's a reason ancient poets called the eyes the windows of the soul. The eyes don't lie. They show attraction when the lips say, "I'm not interested." They show guilt when the mouth insists, "I've done nothing wrong." And they show a restless emptiness in women who've cycled through partners but never found true connection. Watch closely. You'll notice patterns. She meets your eyes briefly, then looks away too quickly, not in a coy, playful way, but in a restless, unsettled way. She might hold your gaze for a second, then blink too often, as if trying to break the intensity of the moment. Or she scans the room mid-conversation, pretending to look at something else when really she's dodging the intimacy of your stare. This isn't always a conscious act. In fact, most of the time, she doesn't even know she's doing it. It's her subconscious trying to keep her safe. Because deep down, she knows that if she locks into your eyes for too long, she risks being seen, truly seen. And that terrifies her. A woman who's been with many men often becomes skilled at surface-level connection. She can make you laugh. She can draw you in with her words. She can play the part of interested. But when it comes to eye contact, the truth leaks out. She avoids it because it's the one thing she can't fully control. Her eyes will always reveal what her mouth won't. That intimacy has lost its sacredness, and she's terrified you might be able to read her past in the way she looks at you. Now, does this mean every woman who looks away has a high body count number? But here's the difference. When it's shyness, you'll feel softness. You'll sense innocence in the way she looks away. But when it's experience, when she's been with many men, you'll feel avoidance. It's sharper. It's more restless. It doesn't feel like she's being playful. It feels like she's trying to escape the weight of your gaze. And this is why the Stoic man pays attention. He doesn't just listen to her words. He reads her energy. He understands that the truth rarely comes out in the stories she tells. It leaks out in the cracks of her behavior, and her eyes are the biggest crack of all. If you want to know who you're really dealing with, don't ask her about her past. Don't interrogate her with questions she'll never answer honestly. Just look. Hold her gaze. Notice how long she lasts before she blinks, before she flinches, before she retreats into the safety of looking elsewhere. Her words might build a wall, but her eyes will always leave the door unlocked. And once you know how to read that door, you'll never be fooled again. 2. She's overly comfortable with touch. One of the clearest giveaways that a woman has been with many men is how she uses touch. Most men get distracted by her laugh, her smile, or her words. But the Stoic man knows that touch tells the deeper truth. When a woman hasn't shared herself widely, her touch carries weight. It's hesitant, it's cautious, and when she finally does reach for you, it means something. But when she's been with a lot of men, touch loses that sacredness. It becomes casual, routine, almost mechanical, because she's practiced it 100 times before. You'll notice it right away. She brushes your arm while laughing at a joke you didn't even finish. She leans into your shoulder as if it's second nature. She places her hand on your chest to emphasize a point in the conversation, not because she feels deeply connected to you, but because she knows this gesture works. She's rehearsed it, refined it, perfected it on other men. At first you might think, wow, she's bold, she must really like me. And yes, sometimes that's true, but here's the difference. When it's genuine, touch feels alive, electric, hesitant in a way that betrays real attraction. When it's practiced, it feels smooth, too polished, like a line from a script she's delivered before. This isn't just about flirting, it's about conditioning. Women who've been with many men often learn how to use touch as a tool. They know the effect it has. They know how easily most men confuse physical comfort with emotional intimacy. So they deploy it early, effortlessly, like pulling a lever to get the reaction they want. But here's the paradox. The very fact that she uses touch so freely reveals that it means less to her. The casual brush of the arm doesn't stir her heart the way it would if she reserved that gesture for a man she truly connected with. Instead, it's just a reflex. And you can feel that difference if you're paying attention. The Stoic man reads the energy behind the touch. He asks, is this the instinctive pull of a woman drawn to me? Or is this a well-rehearsed move designed to create attraction? And more often than not, if it feels too soon, too easy, too casual, it's the latter. There's another layer to this. Women with a high body count often blur the line between platonic and intimate touch. They've been in so many social and physical situations that their boundaries shift. They don't treat physical closeness as sacred anymore. They'll sit too close, lean too easily, playfully shove your shoulder like it's nothing. To the untrained eye, it looks like charm. But to the aware man, it's a flashing signal. She's done this before, and she'll do it again. And here's what you must understand. This doesn't make her evil. It doesn't make her manipulative. It makes her experienced. But experience cuts both ways. Experience can sharpen her instincts, but it also leaves traces, patterns, and tells. And if you're wise, you'll see through them. The difference between a woman whose touch carries meaning and one whose touch is casual is night and day. The first feels rare. You sense the hesitation, the nervous energy, the vulnerability. The second feels cheap, polished, routine, like muscle memory. And this is the part she hopes you never discover. Her comfort with touch isn't proof of deep attraction. It's proof of history. It's the residue of too many encounters, too many rehearsals, too many times she's used touch as her first weapon instead of her last surrender. So the next time she leans in too quickly, laughs too loudly while brushing your arm, or touches you like it's second nature, don't be blinded. Pay attention. Ask yourself not what the touch looks like, but what it feels like. If it feels like performance, it probably is. Because real intimacy doesn't announce itself. It sneaks in quietly, hesitantly, almost nervously. When it's real, touch trembles. When it's rehearsed, touch glides. And that's how you know the difference. 3. She talks about experiences instead of feelings. Listen carefully when she speaks, not just the words, but the pattern of her language. Because women reveal far more in what they emphasize than in what they conceal. And one of the most telling signs that she's been with many men is the way she frames her past. She talks about experiences instead of feelings. At first, it sounds harmless. She says things like, "I've had my fun. I've been through a lot. I'm just enjoying life. I've had some crazy stories." Most men hear this and shrug it off, but if you're paying attention, you'll realize this is her way of glossing over intimacy without actually acknowledging it. She's not talking about connections. She's not talking about love, vulnerability, heartbreak, or devotion. She's talking about experiences, and experiences is a carefully chosen mask. It's vague enough to keep you guessing, but specific enough to hint at a history far more complex than she's willing to admit. Why does she use this language? Because feelings reveal depth. Experiences reveal nothing. If she were to talk about feelings, she'd have to admit to bonds, to heartbreaks, to attachments. And the more attachments she admits, the clearer the pattern becomes. By framing it as experiences, she erases the emotional weight and makes it sound like casual background noise in her life. It's not just the word experience itself, but the way she talks about people. Instead of saying, "I cared for him" or "I loved him," she'll say things like, "I was seeing someone. I had a thing with this guy. We hung out for a while." Notice how clinical that sounds, detached, as if she's describing a meeting or a class she once attended. There's no vulnerability in her tone, no lingering softness. That's because repetition has dulled the intimacy. If you've been with many people, you learn to describe them as phases or stories, not as deep emotional bonds. Here's the paradox. She often believes she's protecting herself with this language. She thinks by using vague words, she's keeping you from judging her. But the Stoic man knows the truth. That vagueness is the confession. The fact that she avoids feelings and replaces them with experiences tells you everything you need to know. And pay attention to the subtext. When she says, "I've had my fun," what she really means is, "I've been with more men than I'll admit." When she says, "I've been through a lot," what she really means is, "I've cycled through connections that never lasted." When she says, "I don't regret anything, it was all part of the journey," what she really means is, "I know I've given away parts of myself I can't get back." But she'll never phrase it that way, because that would require vulnerability. And vulnerability is something that erodes after too many repetitions. This is why, when you meet a woman with genuine depth, her words feel different. She doesn't talk about experiences. She talks about how someone made her feel. She talks about growth, about lessons, about moments that changed her. She uses language that shows intimacy was rare and sacred. Contrast that with a woman who's been with many men. Her words are vague, detached, and transactional. She reduces years of interactions into a single line. "I was with him for a while." No warmth, no intimacy, no emotional residue. Just another entry in a long sequence. And here's where it gets even more telling. She'll use humor to gloss over it. She might laugh when she says, "Oh, I've had some crazy experiences." That laugh isn't joy, it's deflection. It's her way of signaling that she doesn't want you to look deeper. But if you're listening closely, you'll realize she just gave herself away. The Stoic man listens beyond the laugh. He doesn't get hypnotized by the charm or the casual tone. He hears the absence of emotion in her words. He recognizes that the more she avoids describing feelings, the clearer it becomes that she's had too many experiences to keep track of. And here's the brutal truth. A woman's words are often crafted to protect her reputation, but her patterns expose her reality. The constant emphasis on experiences instead of feelings is one of those patterns. It tells you she's been through more than she wants to admit. It tells you she's rewritten her past in a way that hides the intimacy but leaves the volume intact. So the next time she smiles and says, "I've had my fun," hear what she's really saying. It's not about fun. It's about numbers. It's about repetition. It's about a past she'll never spell out, but one you can read between the lines. Real quick, before we go deeper, I've got something powerful for you. It's a free ebook called The Attraction Handbook. Inside, you'll learn how to make her crave you using just a few psychological moves. It's free for now, so grab it in the description or the pinned comment below. Fourth, her social media tells the story. She might deny, she might downplay, she might even lie. But one thing women can't fully control: the digital trail they leave behind. In the age of social media, Instagram, TikTok, and Snapchat have become more revealing than any confession she could ever make. And if you want to know the truth about a woman's past, you don't ask her directly. You watch what her online presence whispers when she thinks no one is paying attention. A woman with a modest history doesn't need her profile to be a performance. Her pictures are steady, consistent, natural. Family, friends, the occasional trip. You don't get the sense that she's selling an image. But a woman who's been with a lot of men, her social media often becomes a highlight reel, not of love, but of attention. And attention is the currency she's addicted to. Look closer. Does her profile scream nightlife? Endless selfies in clubs, champagne glasses in hand, girls' nights that seem less about friendship and more about being seen. That's not just coincidence. It's conditioning. She's learned that validation comes from being visible, from constantly projecting the image of fun, free, and desirable. And men, dozens of them, sometimes hundreds, validate it with likes, comments, messages. But it's not just the obvious party pictures. It's the subtle cues. Late-night posts with captions like, "Living my best life," "You only live once," or "No regrets." These aren't harmless lines. They're coded signals, mantras used to justify a lifestyle she knows isn't built on stability or depth. They're affirmations designed to hide regret. Then there are the cryptic quotes. "Never settle," "Know your worth," "He lost a real one." These aren't random. They're emotional aftershocks of short-lived flings, relationships that ended as quickly as they started. Each quote is a breadcrumb, a hint of drama, a silent admission that her emotional history isn't a stable one. And don't forget the frequency. The woman who's constantly posting, constantly updating, constantly fishing for reactions. She's not just sharing her life, she's competing with herself. She's measuring her worth in comments and fire emojis because she's used to being validated by a crowd of men. If her likes dip, if her inbox is quiet, she feels the withdrawal. That's the mark of someone who's played this game too long. But here's the most telling part. Watch how she presents herself physically, the curated poses, the carefully arched back, the strategic angles, the thirst-trap selfies posted at just the right time of night. These aren't innocent. They're designed, consciously or not, to bait attention, to remind her followers, "I'm still desirable, don't forget me." Contrast this with a woman of depth. She doesn't need the constant performance. Her beauty is quieter. Her posts are fewer, but more authentic. She doesn't measure herself by how many men double-tap her picture. Social media also reveals patterns across time. Look at the turnover of her vibe. One month she's posting soft romantic content. The next, it's wild party nights. Then it's cryptic heartbreak quotes. Then it's a new me gym selfie phase. These cycles aren't random. They reflect the revolving door of men and moods. When her personal life changes, her feed changes. And if you've got sharp eyes, you'll see the rhythm of her romantic chaos written in her online timeline. And here's the irony: she might block you, hide her stories, or curate her posts when you're watching. But the truth leaks elsewhere. Tagged photos from friends, old highlights, screenshots. No matter how carefully she tries to rewrite the story, digital footprints don't disappear. The Stoic man knows how to read the signs. He doesn't get seduced by the surface, the glamorous photos, the bold captions. He looks at the patterns, the need for attention, the inconsistency, the constant reinvention of identity. He sees social media for what it is, not just a highlight reel, but a confession booth. Because while her lips might say, "I don't really go out like that," her Instagram says otherwise. While she might insist, "I'm focused on myself," her late-night selfies tell the truth. While she might claim, "I'm not into drama," her cryptic posts betray otherwise. And once you learn to read her feed through Stoic eyes, you'll realize something she never wanted you to know. She may have erased names and numbers, but her patterns are carved into her digital history, and patterns never lie. 5. She moves fast, then pulls back. At first, it feels like magic. She's texting you constantly. She laughs at every joke. She leans in close, touches your arm, tells you she's never met anyone like you. The energy is intoxicating, fast, heated, almost overwhelming. You think you've finally cracked the code, that you've met a woman who truly sees you. And then, just as suddenly, she disappears. The texts slow down, the enthusiasm fades, the warmth turns cold. You're left wondering what you did wrong, trying to piece together how something so alive could vanish overnight. But here's the truth. This isn't about you. This is about her patterns. Women who've been with many men often develop a cycle, a rhythm of intensity followed by retreat. Why? Because intimacy isn't new to them. It doesn't scare them. They know how to spark connection instantly, because they've done it countless times before. But because they've repeated it so often, the high never lasts. The novelty fades quickly, and when it does, they pull back. Not because you failed, but because they've trained themselves to chase the feeling of the beginning over and over again. Think about it. For someone who's lived through countless flings, dates, and short-lived romances, the rush of the chase becomes addictive. The late-night texts, the butterflies of anticipation, the thrill of the unknown, that's what lights them up. But the moment things become steady, the moment you're no longer a mystery, the dopamine fades. And with it, so does her desire. So she pulls away, not necessarily to leave you, but to recreate the cycle. She wants the spark again. She wants to feel the thrill of the hunt, the heat of the first kiss, the high of something forbidden. And if she can't get it from you anymore, she'll withdraw and search for it elsewhere. This is why you'll notice her emotional rhythm feels like a roller coaster. One week she's all over you, the next week she's distant. One moment she's telling you how much she likes you, the next she's making excuses not to see you. To the untrained man, it feels confusing. To the Stoic man, it's a sign that she's not new to this, that she's been here before many times, and she's addicted not to you, but to the feeling you gave her in the beginning. The worst part, she might not even realize she's doing this. Many women caught in this pattern will swear they're looking for something serious, that they want stability, that they're done with games. But actions speak louder than words, and her actions reveal the truth. She thrives in the chaos of the chase, not in the stillness of real connection. The Stoic man doesn't chase her when she pulls back. He doesn't flood her with attention to win her back. He understands that this push-pull rhythm is her cycle, not his responsibility. He knows that desire built only on fast sparks will always fizzle, and he refuses to let himself get trapped in her loop. Here's the test. Watch how she reacts to calm consistency. Does she relax into it? Or does she start to create drama, testing you, withdrawing, trying to recreate the uncertainty of the beginning? If it's the latter, you know what you're dealing with. Because the truth is simple. When a woman has cycled through many men, she learns how to ignite fire quickly, but she rarely learns how to sustain it. Her emotional wiring becomes conditioned for novelty, not depth. And unless she breaks that pattern, every man she meets will eventually feel the same rise and fall. So when you experience this, the fast flood of attention followed by the cold silence, don't internalize it. Don't think you failed. Recognize it for what it is. A pattern built from repetition, from a past she'll never admit in detail. A past that screams not in her words, but in her rhythm. And once you recognize it, you'll never chase that vanishing warmth again. You'll see it for what it is, not a sign of love, but a sign of history. 6. She doesn't value your time. One of the most obvious, yet most overlooked, signs that a woman has been with many men is the way she treats your time. And here's the brutal truth. A woman who's been through countless situationships, dates and flings doesn't see your attention as rare. She sees it as replaceable. At first you might not notice it. She seems interested, she responds, she shows up, but slowly the cracks appear. She cancels plans at the last minute. She shows up late, unapologetic, with an excuse she delivers casually. She answers your messages hours later, but somehow you see her active online, posting, scrolling, engaging with others. She acts like being with you is an option, not a privilege. This isn't just bad manners, it's conditioning. When a woman has cycled through many men, she becomes desensitized to the value of male time and attention. She knows that if she flakes on one, another will be there tomorrow. If she cancels on Friday, someone else will invite her out Saturday. Attention becomes an endless buffet. And when you have a buffet, you stop valuing any single plate. The Stoic man recognizes this instantly, because the man of self-respect knows when someone doesn't value your time, they don't value you. He doesn't rationalize her behavior. He doesn't say, "Oh, she's just busy," or "she must have forgotten." He sees the truth. She doesn't view him as rare because her history has taught her that men are abundant. Here's the paradox. The more men she's had in her orbit, the less she values the presence of the man in front of her. She treats your time casually because experience has conditioned her to believe attention never runs out. But here's what she doesn't expect. The Stoic man doesn't play that game. He knows time is his most valuable resource, and he won't waste it on someone who treats it lightly. Notice the way she speaks when you call her out. If you mention her lateness, she laughs it off. If you bring up her cancellations, she flips it back on you. Why are you being so serious? Relax, it's not a big deal. But it is a big deal. Because behind her words is the hidden truth. She's had so much male attention in her past that losing yours doesn't scare her. Not yet. That's why the most powerful move isn't to argue, beg, or demand respect. It's to withdraw, to show her with your actions that your time is not replaceable, that if she wants access to you, she needs to value it, because you won't give it twice. And that's when the shift happens. That's when she realizes you're not like the others. That's when she feels scarcity. And scarcity changes everything, because the truth is, she does value time. She just doesn't value every man's time. And when you stop giving it freely, she's forced to confront the reality she's avoided. She can't treat you like the endless buffet. With you, the table is reserved, and if she doesn't show up, someone else will take her seat. This is the lesson most men never learn. They think persistence wins her over. They think understanding her excuses will make her love them more. But all it does is prove to her that you're easy, that your time isn't rare. And women don't crave what's easy. They crave what they could lose. So the next time she cancels casually, remember this: it's not about the schedule. It's about respect. A woman's relationship with your time is one of the clearest mirrors of her past. And if her past has been filled with abundance, flings and replacements, she'll treat your hours as disposable. But if you stand firm, if you treat your own time as sacred, she'll either rise to that standard or reveal that she was never capable of valuing you in the first place. And either way, you win. 7. She slips in details without realizing it. No matter how carefully a woman guards her past, the truth always leaks out. Not in her confessions, not in her big speeches, but in the little details she lets slip when she thinks you're not paying attention. And if you know how to listen, those slips reveal more than any direct question ever could. At first, it's subtle. She tells a story about a trip she took, and suddenly there's a we where you expected an I. She laughs about an old inside joke, but when you ask who it was with, she changes the subject. She references this guy I used to know, but says it casually, as if it doesn't matter. These aren't accidents. They're fragments of a history she's trying to bury under vague language and quick transitions. The key is this: women don't like silence. They fill space with stories, anecdotes, little glimpses into their lives. And in those glimpses, her patterns show. A woman who's had fewer experiences will tell stories that feel grounded, consistent, emotionally rich. A woman who's been with many men tells stories that feel fragmented, scattered, stitched together like fabric scraps from a dozen different wardrobes. She mentions names you've never heard before. She drops timelines that don't fully add up. She recalls crazy nights or wild times, but never explains who was there. And here's the thing: she doesn't even realize she's giving you these clues, because in her mind, she's sanitized her past. She's edited it into a narrative that feels presentable, but editing always leaves traces. And if you listen carefully, you'll hear the seams. For example, she might casually mention "my exes" in the plural, without realizing she's revealed more than one serious relationship. She might reference "this one guy who used to" 3 or 4 times in different conversations. She might laugh about something a friend's boyfriend did, but the details are too sharp, too personal, and you realize she's not talking about her friend's boyfriend at all. This is why the Stoic man doesn't interrogate. He doesn't press her with direct questions about her past, because he knows she'll never answer them honestly. Instead, he listens, patiently, quietly, and in time she reveals everything without realizing it. Here's what happens psychologically. The more men she's been with, the harder it is for her to keep the stories straight. Too many names, too many places, too many phases. So she relies on vague language to smooth it over. But the brain betrays itself. In moments of comfort, in casual conversation, her guard drops and the real details slip out. And when they do, you don't need to confront her. You don't need to catch her in a lie. You just file it away. Because now you understand what she hoped you'd never piece together. Her past is fuller than she wants you to believe. This doesn't mean you judge her instantly, but it does mean you see her clearly. You're not blinded by her charm, her smile, or her curated stories. You've read the patterns, you've caught the details, and in those details, you've found the truth. Because no matter how much she tries to hide, one reality will always remain. A woman's past leaves traces. And if you know how to look, if you know how to listen, you'll see what every other man missed. If you've ever noticed these signs before but ignored your instincts, comment below, "I see the truth now." Let's see how many men have finally opened their eyes.